Hello and a very warm welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be doing quite a long flight, overnight flight in the ToLiss A330neo. Going to be flying over to Lisbon. So the aircraft did a fairly short internal flight, so fully shut down. Let's wake her up. Can't find the battery switches, can you? Both batteries on. That's better. We can see what we're doing now. So we've got both power sources available. That's the external power. So on, and then I'll just do the navigation lights, leave the seatbelt sign off, and emergency exit lights armed. IRSs. A few tests. Payload is going to give us a zero fuel weight of 170 tonnes, and I'm going to need 58.1 tonnes for a flight time of just over 9 hours. So let's get that. Let's get the fuel loading going now, because that's going to take quite a while. We've already earned ourselves the cockpit preparation checklist. So as you saw, as we armed those, we put those on, the batteries went on, and the altimeter set to 1016, confirming there that fuel is loading. We can crack on therefore with the good stuff. So init request, let's just make sure they are aligning on the GPS. That's fine. That's it. That's its default. I don't know if you noticed. Let's go back. You can see the default there seems to be do it on the GPS position, and if you wanted to do it on the reference position, you would be able to type that in and then hit that. So init A complete. Now flight plan page, and we're going to be departing off runway 15. Just sort of light winds. Conv departure would seem logical here. Insert that, just go back, make sure that that hasn't given us any discontinuities as a result of putting in the SID. So I think our initial cleared alt can be 130. Go here, consider if you want to put in any radnavs, and then off to init B. So I've just requested the winds, and you can see it's just reduced the flight plan, the flight time down slightly, and that's now back in the green. So I'm happy with those figures. Now I like to use the takeoff calculator that's available via the FMS, and regardless of what you're going to use, you're going to make sure that your weights are correct, temperature, QNH, and the winds, and then we can go and request it. Like I say, whatever method you use, check it. Remember the Airbus way of doing this stuff? Out in blue you can change, anything in green you can't change. So that figure there, for example, the takeoff weight, you might be thinking, well, why can't you change that? Well, go back, have a look on init B. That's where you've got the data in blue. So the sum of that plus that gives you that. Let's use a flex temp then, so flexing at 37. Insert, and what else is there to do? Progress page. Let's just make sure that our initial alt agrees with this. So what have we got? Check your init page is what I'm saying. So you've got 350. That's quite a way above the optimum, but below the max, and we'll burn some fuel anyway. So that, as we climb, so that will increase. How much fuel do you reckon we'll burn in the climbing? You don't have to do that. I usually put I'm showing you something there that I've not said what I've done. You don't have to enter the destination airport on there, but I tend to, and then I can just make sure as well that it's in the A. Is it in the direction that we're expecting to fly? Yes. And the distance roughly agrees. Of course, it's not going to be the same as that, because that's got all the twists and turns in of the flight plan. But as long as that matches, it's near you're all good. Secondary flight plan, often a good idea to use that. Just make a copy of your current flight plan so that it's available in the secondary should you need it. And then to go back to your main flight plan, just push that button. So that's in green, that's the active one. Still being refueled, still hooked up to external power at the moment. I'm not going to switch on the APU just yet, although I'm not far from doing that actually. I just don't want to draw fuel from the APU and the other considerations that you have when you're running from the APU. So it'd be a good opportunity just to tidy up the FCP and make sure that we've got 130 set just there, and then we've done everything else on the FMS, so now we can go on the flight directors, and you notice there they go into managed mode, as does that, but it will always show you your altitude that you've selected. So have a look on here, we've got climb, nav and 1FD2. Let's reduce the, I was going to say reduce the range, don't need to, already done. Those previous pilots were considerate in leaving it like that. That is the only thing now that we're waiting on. So let's start the APU. APU is available, so let's remove the external power. Say remove it, let's disconnect the external power because those guys down below the nose are going to remove that. Now have a look at the APU load at the moment, 18%. You'll see it increase. Watch the EGT when we switch on the APU bleed. See it rise a little bit. Fuel pumps, beacon, seatbelt. Let's do the before start checklist. Okay, we're going.
Starting pushback now, and you may start your engine.
So we'll put this over to ignition. Verify the bleed air page and start engine 1.
operation completed. Please set parking brake.
SRS runway, auto thrust is blue. I think during the rotation I just was a little bit hesitant, and you just saw it, the rotation just slow down just a little bit. Anyway, let's go with the autopilot. Can't see anything. So what I was saying was the time now is we'll call it 12:30 Zulu. So it's 9:30 PM local time, and we're going to be flying for 9 hours. So that's going to put us approximately That's going to put us at 9:30 AM Zulu. No adjustment to Zulu time in Portugal, so that'll be the local time. Nice early morning arrival for us. Just got to stay awake now. Config 0. And we can see on the PFD we've actually got 8,000, which is the first constraint. So even though we've dialed in 13000, it will only go to there because that's a constraint of that SID. Speed's increasing nicely. That's the point where we've got 8,000, so it's showing you there in magenta where it would level off and then resume the climb as well. Right, a few little items. Let's just check the temperature. Don't think we need the anti-ice. No, that's fine. So, turn off lights off, nose light off, disarm the spoilers, put the status on. Yes, not like a lot of flight simmers where as soon as they see rain, need the anti-ice, gotta put the anti-ice on, or crash. No, you don't. No. Just check your temperatures. Right, I promise I'm not going to get bored either. You know, not like the I'm a Fly Brigade. What are you going to do today then?
I'm a fly the 777 to New York.
Yeah, and then
I'm a fly the A380 on the way back.
how's that flight going for you then?
Got bored wasn't the right livery.
Or the sim brief made me crash lot.
Sim brief made me crash. I am never playing flight sim ever again.
Yes, sim brief didn't make you crash. You waited until your fuel ran down to 0 before you did anything about it. Here it goes, look. So at Eggerman, it's just saying it's going to level off and it will resume it. So as soon as it's let the engines command a bit less thrust, bang, off we go again to 10,000 now. Probably should increase the range ring and not keep banging on about the I'm a Fly Brigade.
I'm a fly.
Right, standard, and on this little one as well. It's in standard, isn't it? I didn't actually realise that, to be honest with you. When you put standard there, it goes standard there. I was adjusting it. Okay, so we've got our 130 dialed in. We've got another, need to be below flight level 100 at the next one, KP242, and above flight level 90. So, notes again. Alt constraint. Those winds are nothing at the moment. So alt constraint, which is telling you just that. So it's telling you. I beg your pardon. It's going to be at 249, isn't it? 242 is the next one. So a few miles. I'll just let it fly the SID now. And then was talking about the cruise alt, weren't we? So I'll dial in 350, push. Let's have a look. How much fuel have we used already? 1.4 tons. See that? And progress page. That's actually come down, hasn't it? Okay, so we're now at flight level 350, just over 30 minutes into the flight, and now's a good time just to take stock of the situation. So I was talking about the fuel and how much we'd use to climb. So to get to flight level 350 today, we used 5.2 tons. Let's just have a look at this recommended max that we've been keeping an eye on during the cruise. So you can see it's now increased up to 378. So that ties in very nicely there with our cruise altitude. We'll just have a quick look on the flight plan. There'll be a step climb on here. So yeah, looks like we're going to be step climbing in 2.5 hours time up to flight level 370. Now when I generated this flight plan, I did it of course current conditions and then didn't fly it afterwards. So what I'm doing when I've come to fly it is I've used X-Plane's historic date feature and made sure that I've got the settings correct so that the weather matches the conditions that the flight plan was generated in. And I'm now flying it, say, daytime here. So main thing I don't want to miss is the step climb. So I've set a timer on my phone, 2.5 hours time from now. But I'll be in and out, just making sure that everything's okay with the sim. And then we'll come back. I'll just give you a quick update when we get to the step climb. We'll have a quick review then. And interestingly, I was just reading about this on one of the forums recently. I can't remember where it was, but they were talking about step descents. It's the first time ever that I've seen one in the flight plan. Wakey wakey, we need to step climb. Here's where we are, just overflown Arctic, and you can see that on the navigation display as well. There's a range ring there that I drew around Arctic, a 50 nautical mile range ring. So whilst the FMS basically gave up on us and said step deleted. We can of course step climb. Check the progress page first, make sure that you're going to be able to climb to your proposed altitude, so 370 now. Still quite above the optimum, but between the optimum and the max. Dial 370 in there, push, and climbing. So far we've used 21.5 tons of fuel, and we're now 3 hours 15 minutes into the flight. I'll see you in a bit. Nearly time for another step climb. So 6 hours 35 minutes gone now, and as you can see at Yorgi, which is 17 miles away, it wants us to do a step climb. Now we can initiate that before. We'll check the weights anyway, or the optimum flight plans, which of course based on the weights. It's a step now, which is what you'd expect. You're probably familiar with seeing that message, but progress page again showing us now that the maximum for level 410, currently the optimum is 389. We're just going to go up to 390. Okay, so 390. It's dawn as well, not of the dead. Standard message just came up there, and yeah, you can see the aircraft is climbing and just showing now where it expects us to reach flight level 390. So obviously you get the idea behind that arrow means you're going up, leveling off. So over 2 hours to go. You can see fuel on board 18 tons. We've used nearly 40 tons now. So this part of the flight though now getting much higher, much more fuel efficient. So in comparison with the previous hours that's now behind us, we're virtually sipping fuel. So welcome back. We're nicely into our descent now. It's a love up arrival, so starts here and takes us kind of south east of Portugal before coming back kind of under that way, as you can see, and then picking up a final approach point for landing on runway 02. I'll use auto brake low, and whichever taxiway we vacate at, I really am not too concerned. Make a right turn and head down towards the terminal. Let's do a shortcut to Ultit. So I've just gone into heading select, and then as the aircraft comes round and makes that turn, we'll go direct to Ultit. Insert 46 miles now to go, so at 7,000 or flight level 70, we've got more than enough room there to go down, but let's have a look. What else have we got? Is that sort of a bit of a holding area? Yes, it was, but I've just removed the waypoints here so that we've got a clear path between Ultit and then Netvo, and as you can see we're a bit too high, but that only equates to about 7 nautical miles, so a bit of speed brake, gear down if necessary, and we'll be able to make up that difference. Just for interest there, we just used open descent just to increase that descent rate, catch up with the glide slope, but also by using selected speed it just allowed the descent just to increase a little bit, and now we can go back into managed speed now that we've intercepted the glide slope, and the localizer is just coming back round as well, so a little bit later than where I'd normally be established, but the 330neo does require a bit more of a planned execution, and yeah, I'll just say that I was a little bit focused away from the flight deck. Check the cabin, turn off lights on, nose lights on, ground spoilers are armed, just the last checklist to do, so ECAM memo is no blue, and the auto thrust is going to be speed. And theirs is the runway, so let's just set the missed approach altitude of 6,000. Autopilot's disconnected. So we've got 12 knots at the moment on the nose, 11 knots now. Descent rate's okay at the moment. Maybe just slightly to the left, so let's go over before the localizer indicates that, and also glide slope, just pitching up just slightly, just so that we don't drop too far below the glide. A little bit more. So 700 feet per minute, and that pitch is okay, just slightly now. We need to go to the left. 9 knots of wind now. Two whites, two reds. Just gonna pull the nose back just a little bit. So we've got 3 reds now. We're on centre. 600 feet per minute, and that pitch altitude should be fine. 2 whites, 2 reds now. So gonna start to transfer now more to the visuals and not be too focused on the BFD. Middle marker.
200. Minimum.
Continue.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5. Retard.
Speed brake with us. Diesel.
Auto brake off.
Okay, so on stand, let's just verify the APU is on, put the bleed air on as well now, and both cuts. Verify they're spooling down. Seatbelts off. Fuel pumps off with the headers, and beacon lights off. Thank you for viewing. Let's just have a look at our figures. So time, 9 hours and 7 minutes. We burnt 51,453 kilos. Add to that the taxi fuel gives us a total burn of 51.7 tonnes. And there's our trip average as well. Here's a graph of the fuel used, apart from the fact that it's just a nice linear graph, kind of a bit steeper as you'd expect in the climb and a bit shallower in the descent, but overall you can see there just a nice linear fuel burn as we progressed. So here's the wind direction in blue, wind speed in orange. Bit of a gap there where I just removed some data that didn't actually make any sense just to leave it in. Main thing is winds from the west, quite variant really in the first sort of 3 hours, but the wind speed itself was quite negligible. You can see here it's below 50 knots for at least 2 hours there, and then from the west kind of get this big increase of speed then up to 124 knots. weakening off again, and then peaking back up to 60 knots before top of descent. Hope that you've enjoyed this flight today with us. Any comments or questions, do let me know, and I will see you soon in a future video. Do take care, and bye bye.